Hello, welcome to the Jet Hairdressing Academy horizontal graduation haircut. Today we're going to be working with this graduated bob technique, working with our fingers in a horizontal position, hence the name, working up the head. We're going to have a slight drop or a gain in length to the front. This is a really simple technique to use, much more comfortable than working with your fingers vertically, and I believe it also gives you a little bit more control. We're going to be working through the occipital bone area to behind the ears first of all, and working with a horizontal sectioning pattern. And then we're going to work from just below the crown to the top of the ears and carry on with our horizontal sectioning. After this, we'll be using a triangular horseshoe from the crown to the recession area, over directing everything in the side back to our horizontal graduation. That over direction is going to build up length to the front. Then we're going to be working in our baseline, which is the hard exterior, if you like, of the haircut. And what actually happens here is that the hair goes from being very graduated and actually ends up being one length at the front by the time we've completed this baseline. Then we're left with the horseshoe. We'll put the hair in the correct parting where it's going to be worn, and we connect that horseshoe into the rest of the haircut, which will give the haircut a balance when it's dried and worn. So that's the basic idea for this haircut. We'll get stuck in straight away, I think, with sectioning. Okay, so let's section off from the occipital bone area first of all. So you can see my head's already been split with central parting or profile parting. You need to locate your client's occipital bone around that area. Obviously with a head block you haven't really got one, but you know, we're looking at about 2.5–3 inches up. That will depend on your head block. Section it off slightly forward diagonal to just behind the ear. When I say slightly, I'm not after a very pointy shape like this, just a gradual drop in angle. I find this is just helpful to encourage the build up of weight behind the ears and the graduated shape itself. Very important that we get this even both sides. A difference in the sectioning here can make it difficult to cross-check this haircut as we go. So take your time, make sure it's perfectly balanced both sides. Okay, once you're happy with that sectioning and you think it's nice and even, we'll get stuck in with the technique for the haircut. I like to pop my head ever so slightly forward at first with this. Again, I find that just helps encourage the graduation. So although we've called this haircut horizontal graduation, there is one vertical section. This vertical section just helps us get our horizontal sections even. It's very small, skinny little section just in the centre of the occipital bone area that we've just sectioned off. This is going to be cut with a graduated line, gaining in length, just to help us keep our horizontal sections even. If you want to look a bit more into some graduation, look at our short graduation haircut. There's some good tips in there about angles and graduation technique. So with a graduated bob, a lot of people talk about the angle of 45 degrees. So 45 degrees is going to be something like that. 45 degrees is fine, that will give you a lovely graduated bob, but also it's not the only angle you could use. You could make it, you know, a bit more or a bit less. Again, if you look at our short graduation haircut, I'll go into this a bit more deeply, but the angle we use here will obviously control how much length we build up through the rest of the haircut. So like what I like to do is hold my comb against my fingers, and that will show me this angle through the rest of the haircut. So by changing the angle a little bit, I can adjust the length up here at the crown, and also by shortening or lengthening the underneath, that will also affect what's going to happen at the crown and where that hair is going to fall to and where the weight line of your graduation will be. So just bear that in mind before you go in. What you do here is going to affect the rest. 45 degrees tends to work a lot of the time. It could be a bit more, it could be a bit less. Obviously if you go too steep, it won't look like a graduated bob, it's going to look more of a short graduation, I suppose. So, you know, if you're not sure, stick with 45, you're probably going to be okay. So I'm going to cut that guide in here now and show you what I mean. Okay, so let's cut this guide. I'm going to pull this hair out from the head at 90 degrees. I'm going to use my fingers to create the graduation in this. I want to get quite short at my lady's neck, so I'm going to have my knuckles very close to her head. Notice I'm working on the inside of my fingers rather than the outside. And we should be stood nice and central, directly behind the section I'm going to cut. I'm moving slightly to the side for the purpose of this demonstration so you can see more clearly in the close-up camera. But in an ideal world, nice and central, right behind the section we're going to work on like this. So let's cut the line. So once you've cut this line, take some time just to have a little look, play around with the hair, move it, see how that's affecting the shape, see how the graduation is going to look. And hopefully this will give you an idea of what that angle, what that length is going to do for the rest of the haircut. I'm looking at that, thinking it's okay. I might just shave off a couple of mil, just so it gets a little bit tighter in the neck here. Not a lot. And again, just move it around, see what it's going to do. Try and avoid, combing the hair real flat. There's not much value in that. It's much more beneficial to, lift the hair up, as it's going to be when it's dry. Just making sure it looks a good shape. So once you're happy with that length and the kind of shape that's giving you, we move on to the horizontal sections. So my advice would be with this haircut also is to keep it, quite wet. It's going to make it easy to section with. The hair will behave itself and stay where you put it. As the hair gets shorter, it becomes a bit more tricky to work with. And like I said, the head slightly forward will just help you to get in at the nape of the neck. So once the guideline's done, split it straight down the middle of a vertical section. So half of the guideline is on each side, about underneath the occipital area here. And then we're going to work with our horizontal sections. So our horizontal sections are actually going to borrow this forward diagonal angle that we've got at the top here. So what I mean is the angle we've got here, the sections we take through here are going to be parallel. So first section is going to be low down at the bottom here, second section slightly higher up, and they're all on that same kind of angle as this top piece up here, so working through until you eventually get to the top. So the way I sometimes get people to remember it is a bit like very miniature blow dry or very miniature one length section, that same kind of horizontal sectioning pattern, starting at the bottom, working your way up until you get up to our section at the occipital area, and that's what we're going to do. Also, another thing worth noting is we're going to mirror our sections one side then the other. So we'll do a section on the left, then a section on the right, a section on the left, then a section on the right. And what this will do is just help us to keep holding balance. So let's get stuck in with that. Okay, so I'm going to take my first section now. I'm going to section off right at the bottom here, probably a centimetre or so up. Now you're going to find this guideline that we've got on this haircut is going to want to jump out on you, and the short hair is going to ping away from the head. So like I say, keep it wet out to help you control. What I like to do is take my section, like I just have, I then hold the hair I don't want. Let's do that again. I like to take the section that I want, here. Then I like to comb the hair I don't want out of the way, hold it there. And then while it's held there, here, in this position, I then pick up the hair that I do want, let go of the hair I don't, and then I have a nice clean section. Don't need any clips really for this part. Okay, so finger position now is really just going to be again parallel to the section. So that forward diagonal section there, I'm keeping my fingers parallel. Another thing that's very important for this haircut is you want a nice, solid, square position behind the head. If you're nice and square and solid behind the back, it means you're going to keep weight behind the ears. The second you step around the head, you will cut the corner off and you end up with a bit of a hole where the ears are. Obviously the way hair grows is hair grows quite low at the front where the hairline is, it grows very low at the back, but it grows from quite high up around the ears. So if you're not careful, if you don't overcompensate at the back, you'll have a hole where the ears is. So this overcompensation, this over-direction is achieved by standing still and in the middle. So, you know, dead still, don't move from that middle for this whole back and you should be fine. So let's complete this section. Okay, so first section of the first side finished. I'm now going to do my best to mirror that section on the second side. In the same position, cut it in the same way, and then check my balance. And I do this process all the way through, which should help me to keep it level. Same technique again, I'm holding the hair I don't want out the way, I'm picking up the hair I do want, keeping a good central body position, keeping my fingers parallel to my section, looking for my guide from in the middle here, putting my line in, like so. So once you get to this point, it's essential that we pull this hair out and feel for the balance from one side to the other. We do this every section so there's no nasty surprises. Cut one, cut the other, check, cut one, cut the other, check. And this way you should stay spot on. So let's do our second section. So again, keep yourself square and behind the head for this. Notice my elevation of this hair as well. I'm not dragging the hair right down here. I'm not lifting it right up. Each section is just coming straight out for its own part of the head. And again, mirror that section on the second side. Try and keep your sections at the same angle. Hold the hair you don't want out of the way. Pick up a new section. Then check. If you're happy, move on to the third section. And again, mirror on the other side. And then, before you move on, don't forget, check both sides, matching. Okay, next section. And then mirror on the other side. don't forget to check. And then the last section. And then once again, let's check, make sure we're happy with the balance. So, once you've checked it and you're happy with the balance, then we can move on to the higher portion of the back. And so what we're going to be doing now is, like I said at the beginning, sectioning off from the crown area to the top of the ear. So about the same thickness as our first section was on top of our first section. So 1 to 2.5 inches or so up the head. Obviously that's going to vary depending on head shape and size. So let's section that off now. Okay, so once you're happy, make sure these sections are nice and balanced, just through the bottom of the crown and to top of the ear here, which hopefully you can see between the two cameras. We're going to repeat the process we've just done. We haven't really got any guideline up here yet, so what we're going to start by doing is a nice narrow vertical section in there again. We're going to carry on our vertical guide we did originally from the underneath. We're going to part that down the middle, just like before, and then carry on with our horizontal sectioning, pulling the hair back, stood in the middle, nice and central, keeping it nice and square, and building up weight behind the ears. Again, take some time to just assess this length. Make sure you're happy with what it's going to do when the hair's dry. Don't comb it flat. Have a little play around and just check that it's going to do what you think it should and what you want. If you're happy, part it down the middle. So half the guide is on each side of the back. And then we'll get stuck back in with those horizontal sections. Okay, first section. And don't forget, mirror that on the other side. And then before we move on, have a little check, make sure we've got good balance. If you're happy, next section. Okay, have a check. Okay, and then make sure you check your balance. And if you're happy, do the last section. And then check the balance. Okay, and when you're happy, we'll move on and start working on the sides. Okay, so once you're happy with your balance, you've checked it visually and by feeling, now it's time to put in our triangular horseshoe, which is going to go from the point we're at in the centre of the head here and come out to the recession area, and we'll begin working on the sides. So we'll section that off now and we'll start cutting. Okay, so once you section this off, it's really important that we check that both lines on either side are at the same height and level, because again, same with the back, the sections are at different heights that affect balance when we're trying to check. So just take some time to make sure it's 100% the same level each side, and then we'll get stuck in with the sides. Okay, I've just tilted my head back real quickly just so you can see this section a bit clearer in the close-up camera. As you can see, it goes from our point at the back, which was the same central point we had at the top of our last section we're working on, and it's just gone slightly curved, creating a V shape out to the recession area. So if you imagine the outer corner of the eyes and draw a line upwards, that's about how wide it is, and you can see in the camera it's nice and even, and that's quite important. So I just wanted to show you that, and now we'll get on with the sides. So I'm just going to carry on now really from where we left off. You can see here we've got the section we've just got to. We've worked horizontal sections up to that point. Now I'm just going to carry on. I'm going to borrow this angle here that we've got and take 4 diagonal sections all the way to the front and over direct everything back to that last square line we just cut. And same on this side here. I'm going to take 4 diagonal sections and we're going to over direct all of this back to this last line we cut. Same over here, I'll show you on this side so you can see it from over there. 4 diagonal section, and everything's just going to get pulled back to the very last section that we've just cut at the back. And we're going to carry on like this till we get to the front, building up massive massive over-direction, I should say, to the front. A lot of length there, and that will give us a nice baseline to put in afterwards. So I'm going to get stuck straight in with that, and we'll get to the baseline in a minute. Okay, so let's get stuck in with this side now. I'm going to do a forward diagonal section, coming forward, combing away the hair I don't want, bringing back the section I do, and this whole side now over directed, like I said, back to the last section we did at the back here. Everything is going to come back to this point. I'm going to stay stood nice and square at the back of the head and just bring everything back to this stationary guide now at the back of the head. So I'm going to carry on like this now through this whole side, and then we'll do the second side also. Keep going, nothing's changed. Forward diagonal sections, over directing everything back. And there we go, that's one side completed. We need to repeat that process on the other side. And as you can see through here now, we've built up quite a lot of length, compared with what we started with initially at the back. And that's what's going to help us to achieve a one length line later on in this haircut at the front. So we're going to do the other side now, same thing. Don't forget during this to stand nice and central and square at the back of the head. Don't lose your body position, otherwise you'll change the shape of this haircut. Okay, so you can really see this bob and this graduation starting to take shape now. It's worth pointing out, just make sure these sides match up what you've just done and just cross-check them. You can see there's a nice bit of graduation happening in the back here. We've got a nice big drop to the front now also. All we do need to do is put our baseline in. Now baselines could be, with a very exaggerated drop, they could stay quite level and the same kind of length all the way round. You do it shorter or longer, that's going to be down to you and down to your client. What I am going to do first is blow dry mine off, and then I'll put the baseline in. I'm going to use a Denman brush, just wrap dry the hair and tuck it under a little, and then we'll come back in a moment and put the baseline in. Okay, so this is the shape dried off, and you can see now we've got this nice, beautiful graduated shape in the back here. Big long drop to the front, obviously too much of a drop at the moment. Through the back as well, you can see the graduation all working. So all I'm going to do now is work my baseline into this haircut. So by baseline I mean the hard perimeter of this. I'm going to use the points of my scissors around the back and into the sides, just very, very small cuts to carve a nice line out. And then I might switch to working in my comb and blood cutting to put more jaw line, harder lines in. So let's get stuck into that. So as you can see, just these tiny, minute cuts, using this finger to rest my scissor blade on, which acts almost as a pivot so I can move the scissor around comfortably and just really carving away. So now you need to be aware of the hairline. On these blocks it's especially hard because the hairlines are obviously very solid, very unnatural. When you go right up into them, they start to stick out quite a lot from the head. So obviously this will be different with person. Hairlines on a person's where the hair gets finished, it gradually fades away and gets a bit weaker. On a block it gets very thick, so it's quite hard to do on a block. So don't beat yourself up if it doesn't look exactly like you want it to. But just take your time, carve out a nice shape. Okay, so I'm going to work on this side section now. I'm going to work through my comb, club cutting, just to get a nice solid line through there. Okay, now I'm just going to check the balance, make sure both sides are level, and do any more refinements. Okay, so that's me checked, refined. I'm quite happy with my baseline perimeter shape here now. You can see the graduations looking really nice through here now. Got a beautiful shape going on through it around the back and through to the side. We're just left now to connect the top. Really, this is probably quite a simple part. All we're going to do is place the hair on the parting where it's worn. We're going to use 4 diagonal sections, over direct those back to our previously cut hair at the back again, blow dry them over the top of the shape and work the line in, and that'll be it, simple as that. Okay, so I've placed my parting in now. I've done mine on the left over here, and I've just made sure that my parting ends up at the centre of the back of the head here. Now I'm just going to do 4 diagonal sections all the way to the front. Really, this is just a little bit of connection. I'm bringing back the hair on top to the previously cut section underneath. So basically exactly the same as what we just did on the lower side, we're now doing on the top. We're just making sure it comes from the parting. The reason we do this on the parting like this is just to make sure that everything sits balanced when your lady wears it. Obviously if it's in the middle, do it in the middle. If it's on the other side, do it on the other side. But by taking these sections from the parting where it's going to be worn, it will just help everything to blend and sit correctly. This is just a real simple little finishing off flourish, really, just to complete the look. Just bringing our sections back to the previously cut hair. So like I say, nothing's changed from what you did to the rest of the side, the underneath part of the side. We're just now adding this in. The reason we've broken it down this way is so that when we cut our baseline in, like we just did, we didn't have too much hair to cut at once. And this way, doing it in 2 halves, just ensures that we get a nice, accurate result, and everything's nice and beautiful, and as it should be. So as you can see, it's a very quick part of the haircut, not a big deal. Stood nice and square and still at the back of the head once again. Just connecting everything into my dry shape underneath. As you can see, it gives us an overhang again, which you can see through this part of the hair here. And then we'll dry it off and take that off. I'm going to repeat that on the other side. Okay, so I've done that on both sides now. Now I just need to blow dry this top in and work in the baseline over the top that we've already cut, and then we'll have a beautiful graduating bob. You can see in my close-up camera here the disconnection we've got at the moment, which we need just to get rid of. And you can see my baseline underneath, which is just going to follow and clean up. So I'll blow dry that, and then we'll put the line in, and then we'll be done. Okay, so as you can see, we blow dried this up now. We've got this kind of disconnection happening over the top of what we've got. You can see it quite clearly in the close-up cam what needs to come off here. I actually kind of quite like it like this, but I'm going to take it off anyway. Obviously you can see here what you could have achieved if you wanted to have a really exaggerated gain in length to the front. You could have kept all of this if you'd wanted to from the back, but like I say, I wanted to do a short one for you today. So I'm just going to go around now in the same fashion as we did the baseline, and I'm going to add this into my underneath. Okay, same on the other side. Okay, so that's both sides of mine done. I'm just going to go around mine a little bit and soften some of the lines in here, just because these head blocks can be a little bit bulky. You may need to do it on a human as well, depending on their hair thickness, denseness or texture. But just go around the whole thing and just loosen up some of these ends just a little. Mostly mine I think needs it on this side, because obviously the nature of having a parting on the other side of the hair means that I've got a lot more hair on this side of the head, so sometimes you can just need a little bit of help to sit as flat as you might like. Don't get carried away though, because obviously we want this look to be, dense through here, but we can also use our scissors to pick up hair and just soften any heaviness exactly where you can see it, just to make the whole thing work and blend a bit better. But like I say, you may not need to do it on a block, on a head block, you probably will. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with that now. I've been round, softened all my lines, I've got a nice little shape happening through it, a nice bit of graduation going on, and I think what I'll do is now I'll show you some different angles when we finish, so you can see how it looks everywhere. But that's it, Jet Hairdressing Academy, horizontal graduation. Thanks.